Welcome to this new automotive news video for Wednesday, March 11, 2026. And while yesterday we did a special on Renault where we broke down the new Future Ready plan, today we're going to do a special on Volkswagen. The group just announced its 2025 financial results, and honestly, they're not good. We'll review these numbers and the strategies of each brand and the group overall. Getting back on track will require some actions, as you'll see. Unfortunately, by a major cost-cutting plan that involves laying off several tens of thousands of employees from the group, but also by quite a few changes in strategy. Products at Seat, at Audi, at Porsche, they'll just try reselling cars their customers want. A Volkswagen special, perhaps? I hope you find the video interesting, and as always, I count on you to share it. By leaving a little like, by subscribing for the next videos, by boosting this one, that's the most important. If you want to give my channel a little support, and of course, you can also leave a comment where you share your opinion about today's news. Do you think Volkswagen is on the right track to try to get back on its feet, or is it heading in the wrong direction? So, what's happening at Volkswagen? Well, things aren't going so well. So, when I talk about Volkswagen here, I'm not talking about the Volkswagen brand. I'm talking about the Volkswagen Group, which obviously includes Volkswagen the brand, but also about a dozen other brands. The numbers I'm going to give you first are figures that concern the group as a whole. And what's happening is quite interesting because even though the Volkswagen Group managed in 2025 to sell almost as many cars as in 2024, there was only a 0.2% decrease observed in this regard. And even though its revenue remained almost the same, at 322 billion euros, that's 0.5% less than in 2024. The group's profitability collapsed, its operating profit dropped by 53% compared to 2024. So, just to be clear, Volkswagen is still a big group that still makes billions in profits. We're talking about 8.9 billion euros here. But it's not insignificant either. This shows that in 2025, Volkswagen made almost half as much money per car sold as in 2024. There are three things that really dragged Volkswagen down in 2025. The first is 5 billion euros that the group had to urgently invest to change its entire strategy. An investigation at Porsche to finally bet on hybrid and combustion engine cars instead of electric cars, but also 3 billion euros due to American customs duties, which the group did not fully pass on to the price of its cars in the United States. And 1 billion euros related to the ongoing restructuring at Volkswagen. What Volkswagen wants is not necessarily to sell more cars, but to succeed in restoring a good margin, meaning to make more money on each car sold. And that's going to happen. Unfortunately, like all European brands that are implementing cost-saving plans through massive layoffs, Volkswagen has already started restructuring its activities. We talked about it in a video. They have fired some of their top executives and have centralized part of the decision-making process that until now was handled separately by each brand. Between that and the 35,000 layoffs already announced by the group by 2030, Volkswagen estimates that it will be able to reduce its expenses by 1 billion euros per year. That's already a lot, but it's not enough, since the group is now aiming for 6 billion in annual savings by 2030. And for that, the group will lay off even more employees than planned. It had planned 35,000 job cuts by 2030, but in the end, it will be 50,000. So, massive layoffs at the group, but also a change in product strategy for many of its brands, especially regarding the Chinese market. I'll discuss it briefly, though it's not our main interest, unlike in the US market where Volkswagen has no product strategy issues. That is to say, what penalizes them isn't that their cars are unsuitable for the local customers, but rather the taxes. In China, it's a little different. It's one of the biggest markets for the Volkswagen Group, a market that it's gradually losing. There, it's another 8% drop in sales in 2025 compared to 2024. That's mainly because Chinese manufacturers have a better product strategy than Volkswagen in China, offering more for less. That's why Volkswagen announced that 30 new models designed specifically for China will be released there by 2027. It's literally the biggest product offensive we've seen at Volkswagen since the company was founded. If Volkswagen can't turn things around in China with its 30 new models, then it's definitely over. And it can give up the Chinese market for good. Since we're talking about product strategy, I'll also tell you about what's been announced in the different brands of the Volkswagen Group. For example, we have Seat, which is becoming a bit like Volkswagen's version of Dacia. Since the group has decided to focus more on Cupra, which originally was Seat's sports brand, but is now gradually becoming bigger than Seat itself. The head of the brand confirmed that several new models will be added to the lineup and that for now, none of them will be fully electric. For a very simple reason. That Seat is gradually becoming Volkswagen's low-cost brand, kind of like the group's Dacia. The number one constraint for a model at Seat was the price. These cars need to be inexpensive to sell. And for now, it is simply impossible for Seat to make an affordable electric model that could be profitable in the coming years. So Seat will continue to focus on combustion engines and hybrid engines. especially with the introduction of new mild hybrid engines for the Ibiza, Arona, and Leon. And for now, there are no plans to introduce a 100% electric model to the lineup before the end of the decade. That means before 2030, there won't be any electric cars from Seat. Speaking of electrification, at Audi, the head of the brand, Gernot Döhler, confirms that for now, the brand is no longer setting a deadline for the transition to 100% electrics. Until now at Audi, we had set two goals. The first was 2026, which was supposed to be the launch of the very last combustion engine model from the brand. We now know that in the end, that won't happen, because models with combustion engines, hybrid ones, yes, but still with combustion engines, are already announced for 2027, 2028, and 2029. So, for that goal, it's off the table. There was a second one, which was 2033. That was the date when Audi only wanted to sell 100% electric cars. And we also know that's not going to happen, since Gernot Döhler said that this ultimatum is no longer on the agenda. The head of the brand, Zano, confirmed that the next electrification target won't be set before the middle of the next decade. He believes that for now, the market is too unstable for the brand to switch completely one way or the other. Basically, that means that in 2035, there's a good chance Audi still won't be a 100% electric brand. And by the way, on the same day, they unveiled a new version of the Audi RS3. This isn't the kind of car I usually discuss in my videos, but it's still a special car, because it could potentially be the last car from the brand to use the legendary S3 5-cylinder engine. An edition called the Competition Limited. It will be limited to 750 units. As for the engine, nothing changes compared to a regular RS3. It's 400 horsepower 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 290 km/h. However, these different body panels have been slightly reworked to give it an even more aggressive look. And above all, on the chassis side, there are quite a few changes, since this one will benefit from a true coilover suspension. Coilovers that will be fully adjustable from the vehicle's screen. It will also come with standard carbon ceramic brakes and a specific rear anti-roll bar. All of that comes at a price, since the base price is still set at 112,000 euros. Obviously, in France, the bill will be much higher, since with the 80,000 euro penalty, the final bill comes close to 200,000 bucks. And it's true that at that price, you might as well go for a Porsche instead. So, by the way, let's talk about Porsche, because Porsche is the Volkswagen Group brand that took the biggest hit in 2025, since its operating profit went from 5.3 billion euros in 2024 to 90 million. That's a 93% drop in 1 year. It's a spectacular decrease. But what's even more spectacular is Porsche's margin, which used to be almost 20%. At that time, Porsche was one of the most profitable brands in the world. And in just a few years, it became one of the least profitable brands. In 2025, its margin was 0.1%. That's ridiculously low. Usually, luxury brands are more around 10, 15, or 20% rather than close to zero. In the end, that's a margin which, over the same period, is 6 times lower than that of Renault, for example. What does that actually mean? It means that when Porsche sells a car for 100,000 euros, it actually only pockets 1,100 euros. That's largely due to the fact that Porsche completely changed its strategy in 2025. They were betting on massive electrification. Except that nobody wants an electric Porsche, or at least almost nobody. They are once again investing in combustion engines, which is costly. To recover its margin, Porsche announced 4,000 layoffs last year and may add 2,000 more. And they are now changing their overall strategy, moving away from a strategy of increasing volumes. In the 2000s and 2010s, with the arrival of the Cayenne, SUVs, and the Panamera, for example, Porsche aimed to expand markets and boost sales, but now they seek to sell fewer, more profitable cars. With this new strategy, Porsche is aiming for a margin of 7.5% in 2026, which isn't huge compared to its best years. But it's still 6 to 7 times more than what they achieved in 2025. So, at Porsche, to get back on track, they're going to lay people off. But they're also planning to launch new, very high-end models, including sports cars that will be positioned above the 911 and an SUV that will be positioned above the Cayenne. Now, we already know what that is. It will be the famous K1, which was supposed to be 100% electric, but will ultimately be gasoline-powered. The sports car is likely the 918 Spider's successor that we'll see. While waiting for the arrival of these new models, Porsche has confirmed a new version for its electric Cayenne, the S version, which will be in terms of the lineup. Between the entry-level version and the Cayenne Turbo, which as a fully electric model produces 1,140 horsepower, this new S version will still deliver up to 660 horsepower, temporarily when you press the overboost button. Otherwise, it will be around 530. This new version is presented as the most enduring in the lineup, thanks to a 100 kWh battery, which allows it to travel up to 630 kilometers. As for charging, it's 400 kWh in fast charging, which allows you to go from 10 to 80% in 16 minutes. And in terms of aesthetics, it stands out from the other versions with specific 20-inch alloy wheels and silver details on the front and rear bumpers. And it can optionally benefit from several features that were previously reserved for the turbo version, namely active suspension, carbon ceramic brakes, and torque vectoring. We'll see if this new version will contribute to Porsche's comeback. Comeback or not, we'll see. What is certain is that the year 2026 is shaping up to be crucial for the Volkswagen Group and its various brands, because in 2026 it will have to maintain its volumes, increase its margins, and win back the Chinese market. That's no small feat. There you have it. We've covered today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, as always, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, or even supporting the channel by clicking the join button below. I'll see you tomorrow for the next video. Bye.